Joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is a communications specialist who served under President George W. Bush, Christoper Harvin. Thanks for joining us now.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So the Pentagon is warning that Kiev would likely fall in a matter of days. Now, this is a very grim prediction. Is the Biden administration contemplating boots on the ground if the Russian offensive takes Kiev?
The U.S. and particularly President Biden has said that the U.S. will not participate in any action on the ground, that the United States and NATO will not come to the aid of military to provide direct military assistance on the ground in Kiev. However, the U.S. administration is taking actions in the form of sanctions, and they're boosting support militarily, I assume, with weapons on the ground.
Mm. And we also see that the ICRC has warned that the humanitarian consequences of the invasion would see a huge influx of refugees seeking shelter across the European continent. Is there a better way of mitigating the untold and likely hardship this will bring on innocent citizens?
Unfortunately, President Putin has masked a military war against innocent citizens. He has disregard for any civilian life, including women and children, as we've seen from the videos coming out of Ukraine. The Ukrainians are a proud people. They're going to stand and fight. I've recently talked to, in the last 20 minutes, a number of friends on the ground there. They're all on the front lines, and they're prepared to fight the Russians. This is an act of aggression that was unprovoked, and I hope the international community does hold Russia accountable. You know, sanctions are one thing, but these are war crimes. These are crimes against humanity. This is a situation in Europe that we've not seen destruction like this since the early days of World War II.
The G7 summit, the NATO summit, and the EU summit that is currently underway are all supposed to address this with sanctions. We're hoping to see sanctions, or we're expecting to see sanctions from all of this summit. President Biden has announced sanctions earlier on, but what sort of multilateral sanctions do you expect to see in the coming days?
You know, I hope that Hungary and Germany and Italy take a stronger stance. I hope the G7 collectively can sanction Russia to the effect of neutering this government, in effect supporting the people of Russia uprising against Putin, because it's clear from the demonstrations in the streets in St. Petersburg and Moscow, this is not a war the people of Russia wanted. Ukrainians are not aggressors here. It's President Putin that's the aggressor. And I do, in fact, hope the world holds him accountable for war crimes, financial crimes against, military crimes against humanity, and financial crimes. This is someone who has found out that he cannot control President Zelensky or the Ukrainian people, that they're independent, and that it will not bow down to him like other areas like in Belarus have and Moldova. And this is part of his proxy to re-govern the Soviet Union, to take back and annex the properties that in his mind should be part of his empire.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I really want to ask you, as you assess the situation in Ukraine and invasion by Russia, do you think that this is an attack on the East alone, or do you think that Putin is looking to take the Ukraine? And do you also think that this is where it all ends?
This is an attack against democracy, human rights, mankind. This is an extreme attack against not just Ukraine, but the West. This is something that Putin has done over time. This isn't something that's irrational. He's done this before. He shadowed this in speeches 15 years ago. And I think that he's been very calculated about when he does this and how he does that, including potentially getting support, although not publicly, but support behind the scenes from other countries around the world.
I was seeing the Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, did hold a summit yesterday, or a press briefing, where he said that the NATO alliance is going to beef up its security on the eastern flank. He talked about the fact that NATO has activated its defense plan. this is supposed to be some sort of deterrence and reassurance mechanism, but how does this work when it comes to deterring Russia in terms of the invasion in Ukraine?
The United States, the UK, and the rest of NATO is joined against this tyrant in Russia. There's even NATO countries that will attend the meeting, from what I understand, that are non-NATO members. This is a unified front globally, with the exception of several countries that are clearly in similar situations as Putin or aspirations as Putin. And the deterrent here is that NATO stands jointly as one organization, that the US, UK, and the rest of the NATO allies take the necessary precautions to deter further aggression. There's no doubt that NATO allies are in harm's way. There are concerns about collateral spillovers out of Ukraine into the Baltics. And I think that the biggest deterrent here is to show that there's a unified force, that there's capability to take on the Russians. The Russians are already having problems taking on Ukraine. So I'm not sure how they intend on potentially moving past Ukraine, but the biggest deterrent is that NATO and the US beef up its support for smaller countries in the East that are NATO.
Mr. Harvin, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.